All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, all glory and honors unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the 144,000, as well as to the rest of the hopeful elect out there. This is your brother, Keziah One from GMS Atlanta. Back with another edifying video. And this is the book of Luke, chapter 21. And verse 8. And he said, "Take heed that ye be not deceived. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed, and the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them." And this is Yahushua speaking to his disciples privately, by the way, about different false prophets and false anointeds rising up in the last days before his return. And 2026, the year of false prophets, apostates, and agents, we've seen a number of different Israelite groups, in particular Genesis. These guys, Nakai and Hassad, they pretty much sold out. Okay, they changed the doctrine completely. They're flexing money and vehicles. All right, and they're totally teaching the truth the wrong way. Okay, changing the truth into a lie, and that goes for ISUBK as well as IUIC. Once again, you got the Bishop Nathaniel saying that we never dealt with the Heavenly Father in the Old Testament. It was all, Christ. And it's just a bunch of damnable heresies being brought in. But this is why the Lord warned us. He warned them back then, and he's warning us now to not go after these leaders. That's why he set up GMS. The men that go into the scriptures and prophecies and break things down the correct way. And if you can see that, then the Spirit is with you. And if not, the Spirit ain't with you. Let me keep reading. And all of these are warnings of signs of what to look for. So false prophets and those that say that they are anointed and, of the Lord and Christ. It says in verse 9, "But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified." And we've definitely been hearing of wars and commotions, in particular different protests rising up. And this war between Israel, the U.S., and Iran, which is World War III, by the way. Okay? It says, "Be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by." All right, verse 10. "Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." And that's the main thing that's been going into this new month of March. Okay? There was just a blood moon. There was a high holy day, Purim. Was a Sabbath. Different spiritual signs occurred yesterday, and this just means that we're closer to Yahushua returning. Okay, verse 11. "And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven." That's why I mentioned about the eclipse, the blood moon eclipse. The planetary alignment as well. So, the words in the Bible, the words of the Lord, Yahushua, are all coming true. Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, his true spirit can be found in the scriptures taught by the Israelites. So now let's go into these articles here. So I want to deal with this. So in the midst of these back and forth attacks in Israel and Iran, there was an earthquake, right? We just read about earthquakes that would occur. So it says magnitude 4.3 earthquake hits Iran's Jerash amid escalating Israeli-U.S. attacks. The earthquake comes amid raging regional hostilities as the U.S. and Israel have escalated attacks against Iran. There were no immediate reports of significant damage or casualties. And this here is a sign that all these prophecies, all right, that all these prophecies that we just read about, all these prophecies are happening back to back to back at this point simultaneously. Okay, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. And that's all these judgments that are taking place. All right, because here it is, they're speaking about peace, right? This guy Nero 47, he wants to have he wants to be the leader of peace in the earth, right? But sudden destruction is coming. And all these events are taking place are leading up to like a woman is about to give birth. Okay? That's the contractions. And that's how these prophecies are taking place. And when the ultimate judgment comes, which is the nuclear destruction via the ICBMs and the hypersonic missiles, there will be no escape for the wicked. So all these events and all these prophecies are taking place simultaneously at this point. Okay? So all right, so you have these earthquakes. It says a magnitude 4.3 earthquake struck the Jerash region in southern Iran on Tuesday, adding to an already tense situation as U.S. and Israeli military strikes continue across the country. There were no immediate reports of damage or casualties. The quake comes amid intensified airstrikes targeting Iranian military sites. Local media reported that at least 13 Iranian troops were unalived in a strike on Kerman Air Base, 800 kilometers southeast of Tehran. And I believe there's a whole lot more casualties than that on both sides. This is the semi-official Tasnim news agency, and the Hamshari daily newspaper said the base, which houses military helicopters, was the target of the attack. So you're having these strikes back and forth. You're having earthquakes. All right. World War III is here. Okay. So what the scriptures have been saying is true. Okay. So let's go to this next here, right? Because it talked about commotions. These commotions, right? When you read Luke 21 and 9, it says, "But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified." These are talking about protests, okay, and civil unrest. Now it says here, Pakistan deploys troops, imposes 3-day curfew after deadly protests over U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran. So this event, right, the least of the flock drawing them out, which is the Israelis drawing America out into striking Iran, this is causing all these other nations to get involved. Okay? Even Europe, right? These NATO countries are being drawn because there has to be a war with the beast. Okay, the beast system is going to be involved in World War III and all these other countries, all right? The UK, Russia, China. So it says Pakistan has deployed troops and imposed a curfew after deadly protests erupted over the killing of Iran's supreme leader in U.S.-Israeli strikes. And I spoke on this before when they broke out, but now they're sending the troops in. So, things are hot in the earth right now. Things are hot, man. Pakistani authorities deployed troops and imposed a 3-day curfew. That's martial law. Okay? Before dawn Monday, which is like a soft martial law, before it because full martial law is when the military totally takes over, but the authority sending in the troops, that's it's pretty much martial law too. Okay? But they're trying to quell these riots. It says, before dawn Monday in the northern city of Gilgit and Skardu, after several people died and tens were injured in violent protests following the killing of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and U.S.-Israeli strikes, officials said. Thousands of Shiite demonstrators attacked on Sunday the offices of the UN Military Observer Group, which monitors the ceasefire along the disputed Himalayan region of Kashmir and the UN Development Program in Skardu City. Protesters also burned a police station and damaged a school and the offices of a local. Martial law is rolling out. And the offices of a local charity in Gilgit, according to officials, at least 12 people were killed and 80 others injured, said police in the Gilgit-Baltistan region. And we have to know what's going on around the world so we can understand these prophecies. Okay? Let me go to the Apocrypha here. Let me get because I was trying to find that scripture. I found it, one of them. But let's go to, see here. Let's go back to the Apocrypha here. And let's get the book of 2nd Ezra. The 15th chapter. Because when you set up curfews and people have to be in their houses, this is when the military is in the streets. So this is 2nd Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing war, we're seeing protests, violent clashes. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. That's why they're going into these government offices and these UN buildings over there in Pakistan. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Right? It says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. All these Bible prophecies are coming to pass, man. Okay? I wouldn't be surprised if the sale of Bibles really starts to go up. And like I did the video last night, these military men in the U.S., these different commanders, they've been telling the troops that, listen, this war with Iran, this is to bring about Armageddon. So if you really want to understand and know what's going on and what the elites are doing, they are bringing about prophecies, but they're trying to bring about their own order, their own agenda. When they don't understand that the Lord, He's the one that's orchestrating everything, and He's ultimately the one causing them to go to war. And Yahushua is going to return. That's why they're speaking about these aliens and UFOs and UAPs and so forth, to try and keep the people from understanding who the Lord is and how Yahushua is coming back. But we know the truth is already out. They can't do nothing but just try to achieve the New World Order. and they're ultimately going to fail. Even though they're going to push the chip, which is the mark of the beast, they're ultimately going to fail. And that's the next major prophecy. Now that we're seeing World War III begin, now the next prophecy to look for is the digital ID and the microchip. Right? Let's go to this here. This is from Al Jazeera. It says, after Iran's warning, Europe fails to unite on war launched by U.S. Israel. Right? It says the bloc is split over how to respond, but some EU members are rallying around the concept of mutual defense. So this is the 10 horns, the 10 toes, being partly strong, partly weak. You got the prophecies say that the allies of Babylon shall hate the whore. So we're in the as Dr. Strange said, we're in the end game now. That was in Infinity War. It says Iran has warned European leaders against joining the United States in Israel's war that has destabilized the Middle East and upended economies around the world. And as these economies begin to see hyperinflation and inflation and fail, they're going to have to bring about the solution of digital currency and the digital ID. And that's why we've been telling you about the chip. All you different Israelites out there, you're going to find out that GMS has always been right when it comes to these prophecies and what the MOTB is. You're going to question your leaders, and either they're going to tell you that it is the mark and not to take it, or if they tell you to take it, then we know that they're a part of those false prophets that Yahweh Shah warned about, right? These false anointing. False Christ. It says, while countries in Europe have found common ground in condemning Iran's retaliatory strikes on non-belligerents in the Gulf, their positions have been confused and incoherent in reaction to the U.S.-Israeli action that caused them. And Russia's going to get involved. It says the fact that Iran is a close ally of Russia, against whose war in Ukraine almost all members of the European Union are united in condemning and containing, and that a Russian antenna was reportedly found on Sunday to have been used in a drone that struck Cyprus, an EU member, has not been enough to. In a drone that struck Cyprus, an EU member, has not been enough to rally Europeans against Iran as effectively as they have rallied against Russia. So all these nations are going to get involved. It says there are two extremes at play. Spain has evicted U.S. military aircraft from its bases, leading to a sharp rebuke from U.S. President Donald Trump, who on Tuesday threatened to cut off all trade with Madrid. Meanwhile, Germany has decided to welcome U.S. goals. All right? So let me give one more precept. Daniel, the 2nd chapter. I'm trying to make this quick. This is Daniel chapter 2. And 41. Well, 40. It says, and the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things. That's Rome. That's this revival of Rome. That's NATO. That's this Western hegemony in the U.S., the Western world. And as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. And that's what they've done through their military might. They're conquering throughout the centuries, the last 5 or 6 centuries. Right? The so-called white man's power structure, which is the power structure of Edom. And here's the point. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, this is going back to Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, that's the military might, For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. If they're divided economically and they're divided on these decisions, and militarily, they're all going to have to get involved in this battle of Armageddon. Verse 42, and if the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. So this is what we're seeing with Europe and America right now. All right? Even NATO is falling apart. So, we're in the time of all these prophecies, all these different scriptures coming to pass. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And we're seeing the divisions, between Europe and America. They're not cleaving. Verse 44, the divine kingdom. This is what we're waiting on. And in the days of these kings, so that means the time now when these governments, 2026, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, starting with the Israelites. Yahweh Shai said, the kingdom of heaven is within you, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. So are these other nations and Gentile nations going to be saved? No. They're going to be subjects and servants and slaves to the Israelites. But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms. That's what Yahweh Shai is going to do when he returns. You can read Revelation, the 19th chapter, when he puts on the many crowns. And it shall stand forever. So all these things are happening, man. All these prophecies. Okay? So, I just want to go into these different news events and things that are happening. Hope you were edified. To the next video, I say peace to all you brothers and sisters that believe. All praises goes unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Shalom.